Welcome to Remote Workshop. We are two 100% remote working niche-based recruiters having conversations about building and doing remote business. My name is Blake Pellerin. I place civil engineers and land surveyors at consulting firms across Texas. I work for Civil Search Consultants, and our firm was founded in 2017.
And my name's Eric Stigge. I place IT and automation resources all over the country. My company is called Converge Resources, and we were started in 2019.
And we are off and running. So with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, virtually, seems like all the clients and people that we talk to have been forced to leverage and really support a remote workforce. And so Eric and I were talking and figured that we've been having these conversations as it is with our clients and people that we talk to that are professionals in the industry and with one another. And we figured might as well start maybe doing some best practice sharing, if you will. So we figured we would start having some conversations here and recording them and throwing them out there. Our plan for these discussions is to bring on niche industry contacts of either my or Eric's focus areas, and to explore the challenges and triumphs of working remotely, whether that's through certain economic conditions that are poor, or whether it be pandemic, or if that's something that you do every day, which is what we do every day.
Since this is the first remote workshop conversation, Blake and I are actually going to talk to each other. So if you're in civil infrastructure or in the IT automation spaces, you want to join us for a chat, please reach out to us.
Yeah, as you can see, Eric and I aren't professional media people. We're both recruiters, and we like doing what we do. We actually you're seeing what our regular workspace is like on a regular basis. We both work remotely, and it's always been that way for us. So wanted to just kind of jump into a few things. Eric, am I missing anything just to set the precedent, I guess, for what we're doing here?
No, definitely we're not professionals at this or speaking, but then again, I hope everybody enjoys.
Yeah. So as Eric mentioned too, for the first, this is our introductory show conversation, if you will. So it's just going to be me and Eric. And as I mentioned earlier, we plan to have guests on to have conversations with us. So for starters, it's just me and Eric, and we're just going to jump right into basically a kind of a quick fire round of what our remote office setup sort of looks like. So quickly, Eric, you want to run down? You mind if I spit a few questions at you to get us going?
Fire away.
Okay. Number one, sitting or standing?
Both. Depends on the time of day.
Okay. What do you have? Like, do you have a desk that comes up and down, or what do you got?
I've got a desk that I have a kind of a lever on it, and I move that lever and it goes up and then it goes down. So usually start the day with it up. After I eat lunch, I usually want to sit for a little while, but I like to make calls while I'm standing. Okay. What about you?
I've got both. I've got a Veridesk thing. I think we may have the same sort of deal, but I've got a Veridesk set up to where I can, pull up the thing and stand, and obviously I'm sitting right now, but yeah, it depends on the time of day. I think a little bit of variety is good, and I hear it's better to mix it up rather than to do one or the other all day. So
yeah, it seems to help me. I like to kind of pace while I'm on the phone too, so I can
get up and walk around.
Space, around my little room here. Yeah.
Right. What brand of machine? What kind of machine you got? Laptop or what is it?
A Google Pixelbook. We run our entire operation off of G Suite, so my hardware is Google as well. Enjoy it. It's inexpensive and works great. Very fast.
Cool. Okay, I have a Lenovo. Yeah, I've got a Lenovo laptop, and I'm running well, yeah, I use Windows on there, but like you said, yeah, we've got G Suite. Both of us have G Suite and Google products and all that stuff. So it's a little interesting running on Windows or Lenovo hardware, Windows operating system, and then all the Google stuff through it. But you're all Google on your side.
All Google except for my cell phone. My cell phone's Apple.
Oh, really? I guess I forgot about that. Yeah.
After many, many years of having Samsung product phones and Android phones, almost 10 years actually, I finally made the switch because I was losing messages. Not having the iMessage was killing me. And I seem to have to buy a new phone every 2 years with an Android, and most people keep Apple for 3 or 4. So I made the switch. I like it so far.
Yeah. Did you ever do the Google Pixel? So you have a Pixel book, but you never did the Google Pixel phone?
No, I never did the Google Pixel phone. I think the last one I had was the S10 Plus, and then I had the S8, and I had the S6 and S4. I was a Samsung guy, and before that, I had a Droid. Like I had the original Droid phone, Verizon Droid, and then there was like a Droid 2 or something that I had. So I enjoyed it, but I like not missing messages. I was missing a lot of messages, sending messages through SMS, and I couldn't send large files. And all my families is on Apple.
Yeah,
I have 2 small kids, and we're always sharing pictures of kids, and it's a whole lot easier on iMessage. People just don't want to use WhatsApp. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I did the well, so I've got Pixel, but everybody makes fun of me for having it because anytime I'm in like a group text or something, it's like, hey, who's this guy with the funny looking messages or whatever. But that's okay. My wife and I both have Pixels, so it works just fine.
My wife has an Apple, so there was she eventually won over on that one.
Yeah. All right, so email, apps, file storage, that's all Google for you, all the G Suite stuff. Yeah. Same here. So we both, looks like you have a headset. I have a set of headphones. Is that a Plantronics or what do you got?
Yes. I like my Plantronics. It works fine. I've tried some other ones. When I had the Samsung phone, I had the Samsung Buds. It came out with that phone probably a year and a half ago, but the mic was terrible on it. My guy that works for me actually has the Apple earbuds, and he uses those, and has been using those for a year and a half now and likes those. So what about you?
AirPods?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I just I think I had the same Plantronics set for a while, or at least similar, but I've had it for a few years, and I was just telling you earlier that I just got in the Jabras, these Bluetooth deals, which is pretty sweet so far, but this is almost literally the first thing I've done with them, so hopefully this actually works out. But anyway, well, cool, man. All right, you want to jump into some of these deeper dive questions?
Sure.
Okay, so you want to just kind of reintroduce your role, your company, and how you define, basically how how do you define success in your role at your company?
So for us, we're niche-based recruiting within IT and automation. So IT and OT. And when you say success is, I personally run, I guess, the front of the company. So I'm in charge of all the sales and the recruiting for it. I do have a recruiter that works for me. So I am what people in the industry like to call split desks. So I manage the clients. My coworker Carlos manages the candidates and the recruitment process. So success to me is obviously making a placement at a client, whether it's a contract placement, because I place contractors and I place full-time people, or direct hire, in other words. So yes, a success for me is placing a candidate at a job, but also there's a few other successes that go into that. The success of me um, getting a relationship with a new client, having an agreement signed with the new client, going all the way to um, talking to my coworker about what the client needs. He gets me the resource. The resource then gets placed. So there's a few different successes through that process. The success of getting the client, the success of making the placement is the ultimate, I guess, is the ultimate quote unquote success for me.
Mm-hmm.
But also, as is probably similar with you, a lot of placements for me also then turn into clients. I've been doing this for
Yeah.
13, 14 years. So there are guys that I have right now as customers that were at one point a placement for me.
Right.
Um,
Which is
that's
kind of like your greatest, it's like the best thing that can happen, I guess, is for somebody that you place to enjoy their time there, get to work, move up through the ranks, and then become your client.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's really how success is for me. What about yourself? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I was gonna ask you a little bit. Well, I
oh,
can ask
sorry.
you
Go
here in a
ahead.
little bit. No, no, no. I think I can ask you a little bit more about that as we go here. But yeah. So for me, working in civil infrastructure, and that's placing like I said earlier, civil engineers and land surveyors with consulting firms, but also there's some land surveying shops that do a little more than, well, that don't do any civil engineering work too, that touch a little bit on the oil and gas side of things. So yeah, so as a contingent recruiting shop, so you guys do contract and contingent placement.
Yes.
Um, at Civil Search, at least at the moment, for the past 3 years, we've only done direct hire placement, and that will likely continue unless unless some conditions in the market change and the needs of our clients change, then we'll adjust. But for now, most of what we do is direct hire placement. So um, basically, success on the head anyway is finding a company that has a need and us allowing them to grow their business, or us helping them to grow their business by providing the right person, I guess, at the right time, and the right culture fit. Obviously, it starts with that, um, and really opening a door for that person to make sure also that it's the right next step, the logical next step in their career. And so where those two paths intersect, kind of the need that you have from a client that allows them to grow their business, or to fill some sort of need that they might have internally, to a candidate
Mhm.
that that may or may not have been looking for a job, find something that is the logical next step in their career, that's not just to further their career, but also to fulfill them in life as a whole, and or to more greatly fulfill them in life. And so once we find those, then that's making that connection is the success for us. And then, just as you said, man, just to take it further than that, is going to be them enjoying themselves there, the company appreciating the work that they're putting in, and rewarding that person by giving them some authority and the autonomy to make other decisions, and then become our client, which is the coolest. Like you said, that's the coolest part of the job, is when someone you place becomes the client, and that makes it really fun. So um, anyway, but
Makes sense. Makes sense.
yeah.
Two totally different industries, but I guess similar end games in regards to the culture fit, um, truly appreciating, um, truly appreciating how much I guess both the client and the candidate enjoy the experience, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we work in different spaces, but we have very similar conversations about the reality that, like, this is all humanity. This is all us being regular old people. So
Right.
yeah, cool. Well then, we also, yeah. So we talked about getting into our average kind of work day or work week activity. Let's say for us, we always worked remotely, obviously, so there wasn't a massive change in terms of where we did our business, you and I anyway, but
Hmm.
just our general work day and work week activity, let's say before March, before we started um, being highly suggested or highly recommended that we socially distance from other people and those sorts of things. What did your kind of average work day, work week look like before then? And then if you want to, you know, talk about after or now as a transition, go for it.
Sure. So my average work week before this was meeting with a variety of customers at variety of different restaurants all over the city for lunches, for breakfast, for happy hour, dinner kind of thing. Um, Current clients, potential clients. I've found, late at this point where we are, I mean, pardon me, um, let me circle back on that, but I've found that less people this day and age want to meet at their office. They usually want to meet outside of the office to discuss business.
Mm,
It seems like it's been going that way for the past 6 or 7 years of my career. So I would meet with them, discuss what their business looked like in regards to hiring going forward. Um, just basic business, I guess. Typical business meetings would be the first thing. Two is I would probably attend a handful of networking groups a month, pitch out to partnership. I'm also an ambassador, volunteer ambassador for the GHP. So I would probably go to 2 or 3 different events there each week. Um, there's
cool.
a few tech events that are quarterly that I would attend. So that I did a lot of work outside of the office. I also did a lot of work on the phone and on the email inside of the office. So everything from cold calling to, I guess, prospecting to cold calling to setting appointments while at the office. So um, that hasn't changed too much. Obviously, I'm not out meeting with customers anymore, and that's been for me personally with my personality. That's been hard. Um, I've gone on a few video meetings, but currently, really a lot of my meetings with current customers and prospects are over the phone these days.
Hmm.
Um, I've been going to some different Zoom networking groups, which are interesting. Have been fruitful. I mean, I've made some good connections and had follow up phone calls after those. Um, so it has changed in the meeting, shaking hands. Um, but I guess my typical day to day is still very similar in regards to trying to generate new business, trying to keep business going that I currently have. So that stayed the same, and then obviously us working remote, that hasn't working remote doesn't really change too much in regards to that for me. Um, you know, that's it for me. What about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I think the one that I'm reminded of, I think you came out of the first partnership meeting where you weren't allowed to like shake hands or something, and you sent us a message, and you're like, "Wow, that was the weirdest networking event I've ever been to."
People were doing DApps, which was
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the
odd.
DAP or the bow bump
You're like
or
this number.
whatever.
Yeah,
That's
I
funny.
don't think people are even doing that anymore. More right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I think people are just trying to flatten this curve out and do their part and that sort of thing. We
Right.
certainly, I know both of us are. Um, yeah. So mine would be, I think, okay. So general, let's say work day or work week for me was typically, getting up and the first thing that I usually do is, because my wife's a teacher, so it would help her get out the door. And since I'm working from home, a lot of times I would just, help with some breakfast or coffees or whatever it is, and get her going. Take a little bit of time for getting my soul right, in prayer, and starting the day in that way, just to kind of center myself, and then kind of get into it. And yeah, a lot of it's phone and email, and as I think both of us are kind of outward facing pieces of our company, like we represent our company in a lot of ways, and so there's a lot of different stuff that goes into that, whether that's taking care of stuff for some administrative tasks internally or whatever. But so we have a lot of that stuff. But obviously, we're recruiters, right? So phone, email, making contact with professionals in the industry who we believe that we may at some point be able to help. And then, checking in with our clients and contacts and finding out if there's anything that we can help with, or if there's any update in their situation. I'd say, and then same as you, I mean, I would go to a lot of the networking events too, and I wouldn't go every single month to everything, but I mean, some of the organizations like ASCE, ASHE, the ASHE, Society of American Military Engineers, TSPS, the Professional Surveyor Society here in Texas. There's a variety of societies that you can always join and check out. And so, so the biggest difference probably is, two things is probably my days start maybe an hour later, just generally. So I'm typically getting like an extra hour of sleep, which is kind of nice. And then, not going to some of these networking events, which like you said, like a lot of them are turning to virtual alternatives to being able to meet face to face. And so that's been pretty interesting. But yeah, I think the biggest shifts for me have been get an extra, kind of an extra hour to start the day. Then obviously my wife is now teaching from home, and she's putting a lot of work into learning how to be a remote resource provider and teacher rather than, in front of the kids all day long. So we're both in the house now. So that's a big difference for sure. But it's been a real joy for us, and spending some good time together. So that's good. And then not going to as many networking meetings and that sort of stuff. But it's been good. So yeah.
It's interesting that you say that about your wife. I've noticed I have a 4-year-old and one that'll turn 2 this month, and they're much more clean because I worked remote, but I have this small little shared office space that I rent out that's, a couple of miles from the house. So I would still get up and, put on clothes and quote unquote go to an office. But it was really working remotely. But now for the past month working from my home office, I get to wake up every morning, cook breakfast for my daughters, spend some time with my daughters in the morning, go downstairs at lunch, make lunch, spend a little bit of time with them while my wife, give my wife a little bit of a break because she's a second grade teacher. So she's trying to teach remote and raise a almost 2 and 4-year-old at the same time during the week, which is really difficult. So what I have noticed though is my kids are much more attached to me, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I mean there are pluses in this situation that we're in, and I'm just trying to focus on those as much as I can personally.
It's like we're in a situation where there's a lot of forced intimacy, and
yeah.
And you can say it facetiously, but sometimes that's a really good thing for us because we're so, we could fill up. Obviously, we know we can fill up our schedule with going to all the networking events that exist. And there's just not enough time in the week to hit all of them. And in this situation, that really makes you sit back and think, and just forces you to be present with the people that are closest to you in your life. And that's been a pretty cool thing. And it sounds like it has been for you too. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Challenges here. So what would you say, just related to this, whether it's, let's just say in remote working, and especially now since, kind of, the economy's somewhat locked down in a way until
Mhm.
Friday when this comes out anyway, until it starts to open up here in Texas. But what would you say some of the biggest challenges that you're facing that you're seeing, like maybe a top one or two, probably
Mhm.
obvious, but kind of walk us through that a little bit and kind of what you're doing about it?
So I guess biggest challenge for me, number one, would be new business within the Houston area, because obviously we live in Houston, so
Mm,
a lot of my client base is in Houston. Granted, I do have customers all over the country, but my large base of clients is here locally, and so I would say 20 or 25% of them are oil and gas related. Um, it being that the coronavirus and the oil crash came at the same time.
hmm
I have to still talk to those current customers, but I've had to make a shift in my current market, going after new customers. So while I what that means to me is I what I do is I find the skill sets that we're good at, that my company is very solid at placing, and then I go out of the Houston, much less Houston metropolitan area, much less even Texas really, and I've started talking to companies in different markets, different states. I've focused on other markets that I know that are prosperous right now, and have actually made a fair amount of traction within those markets. So I kind of saw this coming. I think it was March 3rd when the futures came out for oil. It was a
hmm
Sunday night, and I looked at the futures for the oil price and just saw it absolutely plummet. And this was before the virus even came. So at that point, I kind of knew I'm going to have to do a 180 shift in my new business development. So I kind of got a bit of a head start on that, and was able to develop other relationships
hmm
in other markets before the world shut down. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess that's
So
number one. That's been the biggest challenge, is kind of just shifting my market, shifting on who I'm calling on. And
and
this,
so you
yeah,
mind if I jump in with a follow
yeah,
up?
go.
So you were talking about a lot of the oil and gas work, and us being here in Texas, obviously, there's a lot of that here, or at least there was a few months ago. But so what are some of those other markets that you've
Sure.
noticed, I guess, that you're able to like service and be successful in?
So pharmaceutical market seems to be doing quite well. Automation within the pharmaceutical market.
Yeah.
So, I take a skill set, for example, PLC programmers, and then I go and look for other companies that I know have an automated system. And
Mm,
um, pharmaceutical is one, food production is also another one,
mm.
that I've got a few new clients because of. So, as well as agriculture. Um,
Okay. Is that
that
like food processing facilities or sorting facilities or something?
sorting facilities, I guess, um,
Yeah.
is a better term. Yeah.
Okay.
So all of that's automated with robots. So I'm going after companies that I can take when I say the resources, I can take the candidates that I currently have and potentially market them to other industries that the skill sets will work into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty interesting because I try to
Mhm.
think because on the civil engineering side of things, there's a number of different people or a number of different things that you can do within that. I mean, there's obviously, there's transportation engineers that do roadway design and PS&E work and structural engineering for bridges and that sort of thing. There's water infrastructure folks that design pipe and infrastructure networks and wastewater facilities, the treatment facilities themselves, and
Mhm.
sewer line and all that stuff. And then the people that do the flood control design, whether that's hydraulic modeling or stormwater design. And now, and this is funny because neither of us are really technical people, so like this is stuff that pick up and talking to people, but we are by no means experts in any of this stuff. But it seems to me that all of the work that on my side in civil search consultants, I can't really speak too much with some of these civil engineers that can then go into now they can, you know, make a leap into another industry, but it seems that you know, they get pretty good at something in particular, and they'll maybe stick with them. I'm not stuck on this analogy too much, but they may you know, they may get really good at a specific type of engineering or a product set, and some more, you know, like to generalize. But maybe some of the big difference that they would make too would be going from the private consulting side to maybe a technology firm that does like traffic modeling or traffic, you know, transit sort of studies or whatever it is, or maybe they might go in-house, so to speak, to you know, the city of Houston or TxDOT or, you know, one of the government entities that puts the work out. But anyway, it seems like on your side of the house, it may be like you could, for example, you could take a PLC programmer that could be in oil and gas one day and then pharma the next.
Right. It
Yeah.
you know, obviously the client would rather, you know, they have a resource that has that exact industry experience. But
Yeah.
as with your market, I'm sure, even with the downturn, these most of these types of, especially very these niche skill sets, they're still working, right?
Yeah.
So and it's not like a company can go get on a job board or post a job and then get 20 perfect applicants for it.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask though, with you though, do you see a decline? Does, you know, the coronavirus have a decline in needs from your customers?
Um, it's funny because that would be so that would be my biggest challenge, is trying to figure out what companies are doing, because
Hmm.
there doesn't seem to be a hard and fast rule. Um, like for example, it doesn't so much matter just this instant anyway that oil, you know, at one point was, you know, under 10, but well, under zero, obviously, but you know,
Right.
that it was like 10, 15, $20 a barrel or whatever. That's not immediately dangerous because a lot of times you got to wait for the tax revenues to dry up before, you know, before much else happens in terms of project budgeting and what they plan for from, you know, TxDOT or whatever it is. But people are nervous about bringing on new employees into a business to, you know, ramp them up into the culture of what they do and who they are as a business and as an employer when they can't even meet them face to face, you know. So
Right.
that's been pretty difficult, and and like I said, it didn't seem to be a hard and fast rule whether you're a larger company or a smaller company, because during this time we have, you know, we've placed somebody at a company that had less than 10 employees at it, and then we've also placed people at companies that have 800 employees at it. So you know, it's like trying to figure out where the rules are. It really seems to be more of if a company is in a good position, and maybe has already been exposed to, you know, remote technology or whatever. Critical needs are like, you know, usually companies aren't really, you know, freezing up too much about critical needs that they may have. But outside of that, you know, we still have, uh, you know, companies that are trying to figure out what they're doing, and sometimes they're taking their time in freezing that too. Did you just jump off?
Somehow it just kicked me off. I didn't jump
Oh,
off at all.
oh, weird. Yeah,
Sorry.
well, that's all right. So, so yeah, yeah, it's a strange time, and usually, so it's, you know, the companies that have a critical need, they're still moving on those and
Right.
talking to people and interviewing them. But you know, there are a lot of companies that are just freezing up their process until a later date. And maybe, you know, when people get back to when the retailers get back on Friday to 25%
Mhm.
capacity or whatever it's going to be, maybe that's going to be our slow ramp to seeing some of our other clients go, you know, go forward. Um, yeah, I mean, civil infrastructure has been pretty hot and heavy for for a while, and it seems like it will be for quite, for at least another decade here. There's a lot that goes into that, but yeah, so that's the biggest challenge, is just trying to figure out. This is a little bit different than before. And then, and then the other side is working with the professionals that are in the industry that are trying to figure out, well, the ones that are, especially if they're getting furloughed for an extended period of time, or if they're getting laid off altogether, or if they just don't know what's about to happen. And those are unique challenges in themselves, because this is something that, who could anticipate this? Who could expect something like this? I mean, I guess you could say, we're due, and whatever that means, but these kinds of things happen, but it's hard to figure out. It's obviously impossible sometimes to figure out when, and why is a whole other question. But yeah, so
have you figured out any, does it just takes talking to people to figure out if they're moving forward with hiring or not, right? I mean, that's
yeah, and you guys probably are too, but we're still, regardless of hiring or not, we're whether people say they're hiring or they're not, we're big proponents, you and I are, of if there's a connection to be made, it's kind of we have the power to change lives if we make those connections proactively without having been mandated, so to speak, the job order or whatever it is. So yeah, I think looks like you might have gotten booted off again here, but
I don't know what's going on. But
it looks like you got booted again.
They keep dropping me. I'm not even touching anything. So I guess this is the reality.
Well, to finish the thought, I mean, I think you and I are still both very much talking with, professional. And I'm obviously I'm more on. I work a full desk. I'm recruiting and working with our clients. And you're primarily working with the clients, but we're still, and I'm sure y'all are too, still, regardless of we have a job fit or not for somebody, we're still talking to all the professionals that are out there on a regular basis, because, as I said earlier, we have the power to change lives if we see that there's a connection to be made and we feel called to make that connection. Something really great could happen. And so we're going to keep doing that, obviously.
Sure. And I'm obviously in the exact same boat. I mean, we still have clients that are asking for specific needs. But as you said, if they're customers that we've been working with for some time now, you kind of know their culture fit,
Right,
the typical skill set. And if I have a conversation, if my business partner has a conversation about it with somebody, I still think that a connection should at least try to be made.
Yeah, for sure. And you see people so we're still doing those and presenting some professionals that we think could be someone that they really need to consider or talk to. And even if they come back, which is often happening these days, and say, appreciate it, but we really can't do anything for the next so much time or whatever it is, then it's still a good deal, because you've opened the door, and you've planted that seed, and perhaps something can happen in the future. But yeah, so it's always good, I think, on our side. I mean, we've got to be proactively working on what we hope is a good thing for our clients and for the professionals that we're working with too. But anyway, so have you had any notable successes through like this particular time of remote work that you would want to point to?
Yeah, we made a placement earlier this month with a customer. We actually made a placement early this month, and then we made a placement late last month. So during this quote unquote shutdown, two different placements. Obviously the customer was the word I'm looking for, an essential company, and the needs were essential needs. And they reached out to us for them, and we got those taken care of. That's obviously a success of making the placement, and the candidates were extremely happy to to be going to work during this pandemic. And then just this past week, we found a new customer in a new market during a time that we that quote unquote nobody is hiring, right?
Right.
Some people are, um, and they are looking for our help within the specific niches that we're in. So yes, we've had a few successes to speak of.
That's good.
What about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Similar. And yeah, we've had a few successes there too that we've been able to line up. I was going to ask you, and I can kind of
Yeah,
I'll push these ones together, but I was also going to ask you if there was a particular tool that or concept or strategy you've been employing that's been kind of a game changer for remote working, and so I'm going to take that and jam it into this what I was about to say. But so yeah, it's been pretty interesting. I think that I mean everybody's been you know the Google the Hangouts Meet, the Skypes, the Microsoft Teams, the Zooms. They've all been getting into well, they've all been used. I mean, I can only imagine how much more they're being used now than they were before March.
sure.
And what that's done to them as a business internally. But anyway, so we're obviously using Hangouts Meet by Google for this conversation right here. So yeah, I mean, video chat and video conferencing in general has been kind of a big deal for us. And actually, we've had had a guy that was just laid off working for a land surveying firm out in the Permian Basin, and we've been connected since you and I worked together. We were connected with a firm out there. It's a family-owned shop, civil engineering and land surveying firm out in Odessa, and right place, right time, connected with the guy, but they didn't necessarily have a software that they knew and were handy with to set up a video conference, because no one thought to ever social distance, and how do you do interviews with that. So proposing a solution to just say, hey, why don't I host like this environment for you to be able to meet and do your interview that way, and see how it goes. And so it's just kind of a cool deal to just these are solutions that we're trying to think of on the fly, and
Sure.
and I think most people, a lot of people are probably already doing video interviewing and all those sorts of things. But it was just cool to help out a small company like that right there with a quick solution and a very quick turnaround on the hire. And he started a couple Mondays ago now too. So that was a cool one. That was a cool one that I was just glad to, right place, right time, and there's providence in that, and just
Sure.
being able to um, use my wits a little bit to get some things going. So that was a cool one. That was a cool one. How about you? Any particular tools other than the obvious one that I stole?
Well, since I work mainly in the technology space as well as the automation space, people are mostly you know pretty savvy on the video interviews. So that has been going on. I haven't had to host. They've usually had their own technology, um, but that's kudos to you for getting that done. Um, for me, I'm sure it's the same way with you, right? Even with all this, you wake up every day, and I think we've been saying this for over years and years. You follow your process. You
Yeah.
wake up every morning. You do what you got to do every single day, with a smile on your face. Because you really are changing people's lives, even in this economy. I mean, the person that we placed at the beginning of April was so unbelievably happy because he was actually unemployed.
Oh man.
So happy to go because they were still actually that client was still doing face-to-face interviews. So he was so happy to even drive there to go to the interview and get hired. Sent us a really long thank you email, appreciated everybody. And then the customer is the same boat, right? he calls me 2 weeks later telling me this guy's doing a great job and he's saving us, I don't remember the numbers, but X amount of time, because having him here has allowed us to work more efficiently and effectively.
Yeah.
Follow the process. We follow our process every day. We wake up every day like it's another day, and be happy that none of us are sick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true, man. And that's one thing we gotta, focus up on first and foremost is taking care of those we love, and trying to do our best to do our part so that we keep other people safe and healthy too, not just ourselves, but how that reaches other people. It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time. But anyway,
Yeah.
well, cool, man. I figure we ought to wrap it up.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to throw in for our introductory conversation?
No, this was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Enjoyed this. I hope whoever's watching this out in the world enjoys this too.
Yeah.
That's it. Go ahead, close this up.
Cool, man. Well, I'll just I'll just say that. So, like I said, our plan is to release one of these, a new conversation with a new guest, probably at least every other week, but it may be weekly depending on who is interested, or if anybody's interested. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel here, I'm pretty sure if you hit the bell icon, then it'll notify you when a new video goes up. So whenever we get that up there. And whether you are watching via YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, feel free to ask any follow-up questions for me or Eric, or offer any feedback. Would love to hear any feedback that you might have in the comments there, or messaging us directly. I think, yeah, I'm also gonna just give me a second here. I also wanted to drop our information too for future reference. If anybody wanted to reach out to us directly, you can, of course. Oh yeah, here we go. Well, I'll get you that. So I'm going to finish on this so that if anybody wants to contact us directly, they can do that. But next time that Eric and I will be getting on, we'll be getting on with a conversation with our old boss and buddy, Jeff Thigpen. And so we're going to bring him on, and he's going to be bringing a perspective from the financial side of things. And he's been doing a lot behind the scenes for both of us, and so we're looking forward to bringing him into our conversation, especially right now because he has a lot that he's doing on the financial side of things, and I think he could shed some pretty good light on some other things there too. But then Eric and I will be reaching out to some folks and hoping to bring on some people that are in civil infrastructure, any engineers and land surveyors that are interested to come on. And Eric will be, Eric, why don't you go ahead and share who you're probably going to be bringing on, or the types of people you'll be bringing on.
I'll try and be bringing on other leaders in automation and other leaders in software development as well.
Sweet. Cool. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to our remote workshop here, and hope everybody has a great day and stays safe and healthy through this time, and hopefully picks up some good tools, some tricks of the trade, I guess, in remote working. If we can help with anything, just let us know. So, Eric, thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.